This is a rhythm tree, which is the classic way that people are generally presented with how to read rhythms. It's not how our adult students learnt them. And it's all basically in related to this part of the tree, which is the 4 beats. So they call these quarter beats or quarter notes. Underneath them, they're called eighth beats or eighth notes, and below them they're called 16th beats or 16th notes. Apparently it's more correct to call them beats, but you'll see them called notes everywhere. Above the quarter notes, these are called half notes, and this is called a whole note. So mathematically it makes quite a lot of sense. They also have European names, so the whole note is also called a semibreve. The half note is called a minim, and we call it two. Two. The quarter note is called a crotchet, and we call it ta. Ta. The eighth note is called a quaver. We call it T, and we presented these in pairs. T, 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 T. But you'll see them joined together. The join is called a stem, or when you see it on its own, it's called a tail. And then the 16th notes are called semiquavers, and we learnt them in groups of 4, and we called them tika, 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 tika. So one sound on a beat we call ta, 2 sounds on a beat we call ti, ti, 4 sounds on a beat we call tika, tika. And we have rhythm names that describe little combinations. So here we've got the ti and the tika together. We call it ti tika or tickety. And then we also learnt 3 uneven sounds over 2 beats, which was ti ta ti, and it's called syncopa. We also learnt that you can, when you add a dot to a note, it adds half of itself again. So this one is the equivalent of 3 eighth notes or 3 quavers, yeah, 3 T, T, T. But we hold them all together. That's called a tie, and it's tied together. These 3 notes are tied together, and we give it a M to make that sound. So we call it tam T. And if you look at the way it works in relation to there, it's tam T, yeah? But we're just holding the one, tam T. And then you can apply that to smaller notes as well. So these are quavers, and when we dot the quaver, we're adding these 3 16th beats together. And again, we just add the M. Team ka, team ka, team ka, team ka. If I show it to you related like this, it is team ka, team ka, team ka, team ka.